I want you to notice something subtle. The way you speak about yourself when nobody is listening. Those tiny sentences that start with two words. I am. I am tired. I am broke. I am not good at this. They slip out quietly, like background noise. But here's the secret most people never realize. Every time you say, I am, you're not just describing reality. You're directing it. You're setting the dial on the frequency you broadcast into the field. The struggle is that we usually use I am as a mirror of what we see right now, our bills, our body, our mistakes, our moods. And that mirror feels convincing. If the account is empty, I am broke feels like honesty. If anxiety is buzzing, I am overwhelmed feels like truth. But what if the mirror isn't passive? What if it doesn't just reflect but tunes? Think about it. The way you finish that sentence, I am, becomes the instruction your nervous system organizes around, the vibration your body rehearses, the expectation your mind keeps scanning for. Over time, it doesn't just describe who you are. It becomes who you are. And that's why people feel stuck, because they don't see that their identity statements are frequency statements. You've probably tried affirmations before and felt they didn't stick. You've maybe repeated, I am confident, while your body screamed the opposite. That's not your failure. That's the missing piece, knowing how to align the words with the deeper field that actually makes them magnetic. So in this journey, I'll show you why I am is the most powerful lever you already have, how to use it in a way that feels real instead of fake, and how those two words can activate the frequency that collapses the version of reality you actually want. Because the hidden power of I am is not in saying it louder, it's in saying it aligned. When you hear people talk about manifestation, it can sound like magic tricks or blind optimism. But the truth is much simpler and more mechanical than that. The words I am act like the tuner on a radio. Every identity you claim is a station, and the universe, in its own strange way, is always broadcasting countless timelines. The one you hear, the one that becomes your lived experience, is the one your tuner is set to. Here's what makes this model powerful. It explains why repeating words without alignment never works. Imagine twisting a radio dial while the antenna is broken. You can turn it all day, but the signal won't come through clearly. That's what happens when you say, I am abundant, but inside your body is broadcasting, I am unsafe. The field doesn't respond to the surface noise. It responds to the embodied frequency. So when we use I am unconsciously, I am unlucky. I am always late. I am anxious. We're not just reporting facts. We're calibrating the tuner. We're locking onto that specific broadcast of reality and letting it fill the speakers of our life. That's why the observer effect matters so much here. Physics suggests that the act of observing is not neutral. It shapes what shows up. But most of us don't realize that self-observation, the way we name ourselves, is the most consistent observation we ever perform. And it keeps collapsing the same version of reality over and over. Now, when you begin to grasp this, the whole game changes. You stop treating I am as casual words and start treating them as instructions. Each one is a micro-choice of which frequency station you're reinforcing. And over time, those choices gather mass. They become embodied. They become a gravitational pull that pulls in experiences to match. But here's the challenge. People try to change the words without changing the tuner. They think they can override years of programming by layering positivity on top. And when that fails, they feel more stuck than before. This is why affirmations don't work becomes such a common complaint. It's not that they don't work. It's that most people don't know how to use them in coherence with the body and the field. And that's exactly what we're about to break open. Because the biggest myth about I am is the one that keeps people trapped in surface-level repetition, missing the actual engine of change. One of the most damaging myths about manifestation is the idea that if you just repeat I am statements enough times, eventually reality will give in. People imagine that saying I am confident 100 times in the mirror will somehow rewire their life. But if you've ever tried it, you know the frustration. The words feel hollow. Your body resists. And sometimes, the gap between what you say and what you feel makes you even more aware of the distance. That's because language isn't magic on its own, it's a bridge. And if the bridge isn't anchored on both sides, the mind and the body, the signal doesn't carry. The radio tuner metaphor helps here. The dial is your words, but but the antenna is your embodiment. If the antenna isn't aligned, the station comes through as static. Let me make this real with a simple scenario. Imagine you've been waiting for a text back from someone you care about. Hours pass, then days. Your mind starts looping. I am unwanted. I am being ignored. I am not enough. You don't choose those thoughts. They arise automatically, wired from past pain. And the more you say them, even silently, the more your body contracts, your nervous system tenses, and your frequency locks onto that broadcast of rejection. Now imagine trying to fight that with forced affirmations. You stand in the mirror and whisper, I am loved, I am magnetic, I am worthy. But your chest still feels heavy. Your stomach is still in knots. The antenna is not tuned, so the signal doesn't come through. And here's the kicker. The field doesn't just hear your words, it hears your coherence. This is why so many people give up on the practice. They think affirmations failed them. In reality, nobody told them the missing principle. The words I am only ignite when the nervous system feels safe enough to believe them. Safety is the soil where new identity can actually take root. So the myth we need to bust is this. It's not about saying I am the most times. It's about saying it from the place where your whole system agrees. When your words, your body, and your field align, the tuner locks, and the station is crystal clear. And that opens a very different doorway, because if nervous system safety is the hidden key, then the real work isn't enforcing affirmations harder. It's in learning how to regulate, soften, and enter coherence. And that's exactly where we're going next. If the words I am are the dial, then your nervous system is the power supply. Without it, the tuner can't hold a steady signal. And this is where most people miss the mark. They try to speak new identities into existence while their body is still braced for threat. Think of how your body feels when you're under pressure. Jaw tight, breath shallow, shoulders tense. In that state, the nervous system is on high alert. Its only job is survival. And survival mode doesn't care about possibility. It only cares about safety. So when you try to declare, I am abundant, while your body is stuck in fight or flight over the overdue bill on the counter, the statement doesn't land. It bounces off. Your system doesn't hear it as truth. It hears it as a threat to ignore. This is why coherence matters. Coherence is that state where your heart and brain fall into rhythm, your breath deepens, your body softens, and suddenly there's space for something new. In coherence, your system feels safe enough to let a different identity in. And the field responds, not to the words alone, but to the vibration of safety paired with intention. Let's make this practical. I want you to try a short exercise with me right now. Close your eyes if you can. Drop your shoulders. Place one hand on your chest. Take a slow breath in through your nose, and then let it fall out gently. Do it again, slower this time. Now, as you breathe, imagine your heart expanding slightly on the inhale and softening on the exhale. Once more. Now, with that soft rhythm in your body, say quietly in your mind, I am safe. Feel the difference. It's not just words, it's a felt signal. Notice how much easier it is to believe from this place. Notice how the nervous system stops resisting and begins allowing. That's the doorway. Before you layer anything else, the first I am to practice is not about success, wealth, or confidence. It's about safety. Because once your system is anchored in safety, every other declaration has fertile ground. This changes the whole equation. Instead of fighting yourself with empty affirmations, you create coherence first. And from coherence, the field receives a steady signal. But safety is only the beginning. Because there's a deeper leap from temporary states to something far more powerful, identity itself. You've probably had moments where a practice worked beautifully. You felt calm after breathing, clear after journaling, empowered after a workout. In that state, saying I am strong or I am centered felt natural. But then the next day, when the stress returned, it was like the words lost their power. That's because states are fleeting. They rise and fall like weather. And if your I am is only tied to a temporary state, then your identity shifts with the storm. Here's the key shift. Manifestation doesn't stabilize until I am moves from being a mood to being an identity. States are like songs that play for a few minutes. Identity is like the station itself. If you keep jumping between songs, you'll never feel steady. But if you tune into the station, every song it broadcasts carries the same underlying frequency. This is why some people can walk into a room and no matter the circumstance, they radiate confidence. It's not that they're always in the mood for it. It's that I am confident is wired as identity, not just as a passing state. Their nervous system, their posture, their choices, it all flows from that baseline frequency. And this is where the deeper magic of I am lives. It's not about chasing a high or clinging to a temporary vibe. It's about rehearsing, through words and embodiment, a stable identity that becomes your home frequency. Over time, the field responds not to flashes of energy, but to the consistency of who you are becoming. So instead of asking, how do I feel today? The more powerful question becomes, who am I being across days, across moods, across situations? That's what locks the tuner. That's what collapses timelines into coherence. But here's the challenge. Identity isn't just chosen once. It's rehearsed. And many of us unknowingly rehearse identities we don't want through repetition of self-criticism, comparison, and old labels. Every time you think, I am not creative, you practice being that person. Every time you mutter, I am unlucky, you anchor it deeper. It becomes less of a passing thought and more of a broadcast station. So the art is in catching what you're rehearsing and deliberately choosing the station you want to embody. Not with force, with frequency. And when you see identity as the true tuner, a whole new dimension opens. The realization that every identity aligns you with a specific timeline. Every identity you claim isn't just a feeling, it's a doorway. Think of timelines as parallel radio stations, each one playing its own soundtrack of experiences. When you say I am, you're not only describing yourself, you're locking into a station. And that station already has songs queued up. The people you meet, the opportunities you notice, the way others respond to you. Let's bring this to life with a scenario. Imagine you're walking into a job interview. If your inner station is set to I am unqualified, the broadcast you pick up will be tension, hesitation, and smallness. Your answers might shrink, your energy feels flat, and the interviewer unconsciously tunes into the same static. It doesn't matter how polished your resume is, the frequency is already shaping the outcome. Now shift the tuner. If the identity you've rehearsed is I am capable, something very different happens. You don't have to force confidence. Your nervous system carries it. You notice details you'd have missed before, like the smile of the receptionist, the shared humanity of the person across the desk. The conversation flows because the station of capability is already broadcasting ease, clarity, and presence. The point isn't that you magically control the interviewer. It's that by choosing identity, you select which version of reality you align with. You collapse into a timeline where you show up coherent, and coherence tends to generate matching responses. This is why trying to attract something while holding the opposite identity never works. You can't say, I am successful, while secretly embodying, I am desperate, and expect the signal to be clean. The tuner can only hold one frequency at a time, and whichever one you rehearse most consistently becomes the broadcast your world reflects. So the work becomes deliberate rehearsal, not of temporary pep talks, but of identities you want to live from. Each time you declare, I am resourceful, and let your body feel it, you shift the dial toward the station where resourcefulness already exists. Each time you embody, I am grounded, the songs on that station, solutions, synchronicities, support, begin to play. This is the deeper logic of manifestation. You're not pulling something out of thin air. You're aligning your tuner to the station where that version of you is already broadcasting. Identity is not just who you are, it's the frequency selector of your timeline. And if identity selects timelines, then the next question is, how do you rehearse the new identity so it doesn't just sound good in theory, but actually becomes embodied in daily life? So how do you actually rehearse a new identity until it stops feeling like a fragile thought and starts feeling like the ground you stand on? This is where we shift from theory to tools. Think of it as building a daily rehearsal space where your tuner can stabilize on the new station. The first tool is bridge statements. Instead of leaping straight from I am anxious to I am fearless, which the nervous system might reject, you create a bridge, something like I am learning how to feel steady, or I am open to becoming more confident. These statements feel believable, and because they're believable, your body allows them in. Over time, you can shorten the bridge until the full identity lands naturally. The second tool is somatic anchors. Your body holds memory far deeper than words, so pairing I am with a physical cue can make the signal stronger. For example, touching your chest when you say I am safe, or standing tall with your shoulders back when you say I am capable. These cues create muscle memory, so the words stop being abstract and start becoming embodied. The third tool is what I call micro-rehearsals. Instead of waiting for a big ritual, you drop short identity practices into ordinary moments. Walking to the car? Whisper, I am grounded. Washing dishes? Breathe and repeat, I am steady. These micro moments train the nervous system that the identity is available everywhere, not just during morning routines. And the fourth tool is future casting. Here, you close your eyes and imagine yourself living from the identity you're choosing, not in vague fantasy, but in specific, sensory detail. If your chosen identity is I am abundant, picture yourself paying a bill calmly or receiving a payment with gratitude. Let your nervous system rehearse the exact situations that once triggered contraction, but this time from a different station. This repetition rewires expectation. Now, put these together and you've got a protocol. 1. Start with a bridge statement you can believe. 2. Pair it with a somatic anchor. 3. Sprinkle micro-rehearsals through your day. 4. Future cast the identity in vivid detail. Do this consistently, and you'll feel the identity shift from fragile thought to lived baseline. That's when the tuner locks in. And here's something I'd love to ask you directly. Have you noticed the moment you stopped gripping, what you wanted finally showed up? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap. But of course, even with the right tools, there are traps along the way. Subtle obstacles that can scramble the signal if you don't see them. And that's exactly what we need to uncover next. Every new identity meets resistance. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because your system is used to rehearsing the old station. And when that old station starts to fade, 3 sneaky obstacles tend to creep in. If you don't recognize them, they scramble the signal. If you do, they become fuel. The first trap is urgency. You've felt it, the pressure to see instant results. You declare, I am abundant in the morning, and by the afternoon you're checking your bank app, desperate for proof. But urgency is like static on the line. It tells your nervous system, we're not safe until this happens, which collapses you back into survival mode. To shift this, you practice delayed confirmation. Instead of checking for evidence right away, you create small rituals of trust, lighting a candle, closing a notebook, or saying, the signal is set. You let the act itself be enough for that moment, so the body stops scrambling for immediate payoff. The second trap is split signals. You say, I am worthy, but underneath an old voice whispers, I don't deserve this. That conflict pulls you in 2 directions at once, and the field responds to the strongest signal, usually the hidden one. The way through is integration, not suppression. Instead of fighting the old voice, you let it speak once, then thank it and redirect. For example, I hear that part of me that feels unworthy, and I choose to be the one who learns worthiness now.
By acknowledging the old signal without fusing to it, you free your tuner to settle where you want it. The third trap is over-control. This happens when you grip the process too tightly, repeating I am like a spell, micromanaging every feeling, obsessing over whether you're doing it right. But control narrows the signal until it becomes brittle. The solution here is playful rehearsal. Treat your identity practice like experimenting with songs.
Try on I am creative while doodling, or I am magnetic while dancing in your kitchen. When you approach identity with play, the body relaxes and the signal flows with ease. Notice the pattern in all 3 traps. They come from fear. The fear of not enough time, not enough worth, not enough control. And the antidotes all create space. Trust over urgency, integration over denial, play over control. Each time you choose these responses, you prove to your system that safety can exist even while change is happening. And that's the real breakthrough. Because when identity rehearsal stops being a battle and starts being integrated into daily life, the tuner holds steady. Which raises the next question. How do you embody coherence not just in practice sessions, but in the ordinary moments of your day? The real test of identity work isn't how you feel on the meditation cushion or in front of the mirror. It's how you carry the signal into the small, ordinary acts of your day. Because it's not the grand declarations that shape your baseline frequency. It's the dozens of unnoticed micro moments where you either fall back into the old station or quietly reinforce the new one. Take walking, for example. Most people drift through it absent-mindedly, lost in thought. But what if each step became a rehearsal? As your foot touches the ground, you let it echo, "I am steady." You don't have to force it. You simply sync your movement with your identity. Suddenly, walking to the store isn't neutral. It's training the tuner, or eating. Instead of rushing through a meal, collapsing into old stress patterns, you slow just slightly. You breathe once. You remind yourself, "I am nourished." Your nervous system receives that signal and digests not only food, but identity. And repetition in these subtle moments rewires deeper than an hour-long ritual done once a week. Even in conversation, the practice can unfold. If someone compliments you and your reflex is to deflect, notice it. Pause. This time, receive it fully and let the words anchor. "I am deserving." That small act of alignment communicates more to your body and the field than 100 affirmations said without coherence. The beauty is that daily life gives you endless rehearsal material. Every commute, every sip of water, every email can become a mini-stage for the frequency you're choosing. This is where coherence matures, when "I am" stops being a phrase you practice sometimes and starts being the fabric of how you move through the world. And here's something subtle. The more ordinary the act, the more potent the rehearsal. Because if you can embody "I am grounded" while folding laundry, then that identity has truly become home. And once it's home, it's stable. And once it's stable, the field can't help but mirror it back. But daily integration isn't the end of the road. It's just the foundation. Because once your tuner is stable, the question expands. What happens when this coherence begins radiating into larger domains of your life? Your relationships, your creativity, even your health? Once identity becomes steady in the small, ordinary moments, something surprising happens. The frequency doesn't stay contained. It radiates outward into bigger domains of your life. The same way a radio station doesn't only broadcast inside the studio, it fills the airwaves, reaching every receiver in its range. Your stable "I am" begins influencing relationships, creativity, health, and purpose. Let's ground this with a scenario. Imagine you're sitting at your desk, staring at a blank page. A creative block has you frozen. The old identity might whisper, "I am stuck. I am not inspired. I am not enough." And from that station, every attempt feels heavy, forced, lifeless. Now imagine shifting the tuner. You take a breath, soften your shoulders, and let a new identity anchor. "I am a channel." With that simple shift, your relationship to the page changes. You're no longer trying to manufacture inspiration. You're tuned to the station where flow already exists. Suddenly, words come, ideas form, and the block dissolves. It's not magic. It's coherence expanding from personal regulation into creative output. The same principle applies in relationships. If your home station is "I am unworthy," you'll unconsciously filter every interaction through that lens, reading rejection where there's neutrality, shrinking in moments where you could stand tall. But if your rehearsed identity is "I am enough," the way you listen, respond, and connect changes. The field between you and others reorganizes. You attract dynamics that reflect your baseline frequency, not your passing moods. And in health, the tuner matters more than most people realize. Stress signals like "I am fragile" or "I am broken" keep the nervous system braced and the body inflamed. But when you rehearse "I am resilient," paired with the feeling of safety, the body gets new instructions. Muscles relax, recovery deepens, and the immune system functions with greater ease. You're not denying challenges. You're directing the station your system aligns with while facing them. What's remarkable is how quickly these shifts ripple. Because coherence is contagious. Just as static can spread through a broken channel, harmony spreads through a tuned one. Your presence, shaped by your "I am," begins broadcasting into rooms, conversations, and projects. People feel it before you say a word. Opportunities respond to it before you consciously notice. But expansion doesn't stop with human domains. There's an even deeper dimension here, one that touches something larger than personal willpower. Because when your I am stabilizes, it doesn't just align you with better outcomes, it syncs you with the larger intelligence that has been broadcasting all along. There's a point in this work where you realize the power of I am isn't just psychological or even energetic, it's existential. Because beneath the personal identities you rehearse lies a deeper current. Call it the field, call it source, call it life itself. Whatever name you give it, there's an intelligence broadcasting through everything. And when your I am aligns with it, manifestation stops being about control and starts being about harmony. This is the paradox most people miss. We think strength comes from gripping tighter, repeating I am successful until our throat is raw, forcing positivity until exhaustion sets in. But true strength comes from surrender. Not collapse, not passivity, but the kind of surrender that says, I will align my tuner with the larger broadcast already flowing through me. I will stop scrambling to invent my worth and instead remember it. When you let go of control, your I am becomes lighter. Instead of declaring from desperation, you declare from resonance. I am guided. I am supported. I am part of something larger. And in that moment, the nervous system softens, coherence deepens, and the field amplifies the signal. Because you're no longer fighting the current, you're swimming with it. This doesn't mean challenges vanish. Bills still come. People still misunderstand you. But what changes is the station you face them from. If your identity is I am resilient, life delivers opportunities to prove resilience. If your identity is I am connected, life reflects that connection in synchronicities and relationships. The paradox is that surrender doesn't weaken you. It positions you to receive the exact support that gripping was blocking. And on the deepest level, every I am practice is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you already are beneath the static. Each declaration strips away interference until you can hear the clearest broadcast. Existence itself saying through you, I am. Not limited. Not lacking. Just being. When you feel that, even for a moment, the practice stops being about manifesting things and starts being about embodying truth. And ironically, it's from that surrendered place that the things you wanted begin to arrive, not because you chased them, but because you finally tuned to the station where they were always playing. And that brings us to the final piece. How to close this loop, how to take everything we've uncovered and land it in one clear, lasting image of the hidden power of I am. So here we are. You've seen how those two small words, I am, aren't just casual phrases. They're the tuner of your reality. Every time you speak them, consciously or unconsciously, you set the dial. You decide which broadcast fills your body, your relationships, your days. I want you to imagine yourself as the radio itself. For years, maybe you thought the static was just life. That chaos, lack, and struggle were the only stations available. But what we've uncovered is that static isn't the truth. It's interference. And you have the dial in your hands. With each declaration of I am, paired with coherence, safety, and embodiment, you turn the knob a little. You find the station where your identity sings clearly. At first, it takes attention. You notice the old frequencies. I am not enough. I am always behind. And you gently shift. You anchor into new ones. I am safe. I am capable. I am connected. And slowly, the static fades. The songs become clearer. Life itself seems to harmonize with your signal. But here's the deeper truth. The station was always there. You weren't inventing it. You were remembering how to tune to it. That's why the power of I am is not about shouting louder or fighting harder. It's about choosing alignment over interference, choosing coherence over chaos, choosing identity as frequency. So the invitation is simple. As you move through your day, notice the sentences you complete after I am. Catch them in real time. Ask yourself, is this the station I want to broadcast? If not, shift the dial. Even a small adjustment, repeated with care, can collapse you into a timeline where life feels profoundly different. Because in the end, the field doesn't respond to what you chase. It responds to what you embody. And embodiment begins with those two words. So, what station are you tuning to now?